They tell you, get obsessed with your goals, get obsessed with your desires, your manifestations, so that you repeat it, whether it's through robotic affirmations or really putting the goal at the front end of your mind so that you declare, you attract, and you manifest what you want. But then they tell you you have to detach, because if you get too obsessive, you become controlling, which makes sense. We've all been there, or we've all experienced it, right? Like, just think of one time when you went shopping and the salesperson was just a little too desperate and you're like, I need to breathe. And that's literally what it feels like when you get too obsessed with your manifestations. But if the salesperson just doesn't care to come and see you, you kind of feel neglected. Which is it? What do we do? The truth is that most manifestation coaches, and perhaps I've even been guilty of in the past of this, don't actually clarify it for you. But you do need to have a healthy level of repetition and focus and obsession with your goals to promote neuroplasticity, which is the art of rewiring your brain, rewiring your identity, even upgrading your nervous system to match the frequency of your desired reality. If you haven't heard it, be that person, do like that person, have like that person. And how do we be, do, have? We familiarize ourselves through repetition, through mantras, through affirmations, through somatic works with what we want. And we have to focus, we have to get obsessed. But there is an art to detaching and to actually enjoying the process. If you're excited, give this video a thumbs up. And if we don't know each other, hi, my name is Atena. Welcome to the channel. On this channel, we learn to love ourselves unconditionally and we manifest our dream realities. And if that is something you're interested in, you should consider subscribing. And your girl is pregnant, so pretty soon there's going to be some mommy content, but the mommy content, I just want to preface, is really going to be about programming, subconscious programming. Let's get clear. Why do you need to repeat? Because it's so important that you are not super blasé about your manifestation. I mean, okay, let me course correct a little bit. It is possible, and we've all experienced this, where you literally just have one thought, you let it go, and the thing enters your life. I'm the queen of this, by the way. Like, I will plant a thought, I will literally forget about it, detach from it completely, and then it will come back to me. But in more tangible ways, there is a need to create a form of focus and repetition to rewire your nervous system and to rewire your subconscious pathways, which is your automatic sense of being, to match the frequency of the reality that you want. And I'm going to use the example of how I manifested my husband specifically for this video to really drive the point home. So back in the day, all right, I definitely had different negative beliefs when it came to relationships. I had multiple disastrous relationships, from being cheated on to being disrespected, being like, and I wasn't the nicest person, by the way. I'm not being the victim here. It was just kind of like a back and forth of terrible relationships and good stuff, but like lots of love, but it was just like one dumpster fire after another. Until one day I decided I'm going to double down on unconditional self-love. I am literally making this my focus. So for 6 months, I actually radically changed my life. I became obsessed. I created a morning routine. I was never a morning person before this, by the way. And I just got into this mode of I am going to do everything in my power to learn how to love myself. This is when I got into inner child healing. I started doing therapy. I started really investing in myself and treating myself. And just literally, this was what I lived and breathed. It was my only New Year's resolution in 2016. That's it. So what is that called? That is called obsession in a healthy way, right? What does that actually do for a human? So wherever you are, whether it's with love, it's business, it's your own sense of becoming, when you place that focused attention, what you do, and what I did in that moment, and I didn't understand the neuroscience of it, is that I declared to my brain, this is what we want to achieve. We want to achieve a healthy level of love. We want to have better relationships. This is what we want to have. So who do we need to be? What do we need to do, right? Reverse engineer it. We need to be someone who loves themselves. We need to do the things that someone loves themselves, and then we get to have those healthy relationships. So what you're doing when you set these intentions and you show up for them in an obsessive, repetitive way with love, right, is that you are, first of all, challenging your prefrontal cortex, which is the front end of your brain. And when you challenge your prefrontal cortex to develop in a way that actually aligns with who you want to be, what it does is that you begin to make better decisions. You begin to be more focused and driven. Your prefrontal cortex, think of it as the CEO of a company. It's the boss that makes all final decisions. Super important to have an activated prefrontal cortex, which a lot of people ignore these days. And then through the repetition, through things like affirmations, through meditations, by the way, also develops the prefrontal cortex. But affirmations, meditation, scripting, and reading, and the different things, we're also activating the reticular activating system, which is in the back end of the brain. What this part of the repetition and obsession does is that it literally begins to scan, delete, and distort reality to see the things that match what you are putting your attention to. Now, at any given second, you have 11 million bits of information, of wavelength, of data that is received by your body. It is impossible for you to digest all of that. Like you would probably explode, right? You need to be a cyborg. You actually digest between 50 and 60 bits. So what 50 and 60 bits do you normally digest? If you bring your conscious focus attention to it, you'll start to notice, but most people just unconsciously remanifest everything that they know in the back end, right? Because that's the brain's job. That's what the brain does. So you have to get obsessive and repetitive and keep telling it, hey, we're seeking love, we're seeking money opportunities, we're seeking better friendship, we're seeking more aligned adventures and experiences. And so it will literally pick up on things for you as you go through this process. And when I continue the story about how I manifested my husband, I'm going to show you what I really mean by this. And what the third thing that you do when you get obsessive and repetitive is that you change your default mode network. This is in multiple areas of the brain, but in a nutshell, that's your identity. That's who you are without even thinking. That's who you be, right? Like if you be someone who just naturally has boundaries because you've met people like that. Let's say, for instance, some of you lack boundaries. You've met people who have strong boundaries and you're like, how does she do it? How does he do it? And he just says no, whatever he wants. He's like, I wish I had that, but that's who they are. Like it doesn't even cross their mind to say yes, like I don't want to do this. That's who they be. It's automatic. So through certain repetitions, through things like hypnosis, especially hypnosis is so good for identity work and shifting the default mode network, which by the way, I do, right? Shameless plug. I will link below how you can work with me. And I'll also link my community because in the community, we do all sorts of things about this, like in terms of activating your brain to like literally support you. There's hypnosis in there and all that good stuff. Anyways, the link will be below if you want to check it out. But essentially, that's what you want to do, right? I'll also just say, if you want to know more about like the brain, because right now we're kind of just glazing over it, I'm going to link, I think it was like just a couple of videos ago where we talked about the lucky girl syndrome, the neuroscience of it. Like, because the lucky girl syndrome, it could be lucky boy syndrome, by the way. It's not just for women. It's factual. It's not a fufilala out of nowhere. There's real neuroscience that shows what you need to do, how you need to shift your brain, and in terms of the things that you do for you to be lucky. So I'm going to link that video below. I highly suggest you go watch it. Even if you've already watched it, go watch it after watching this video. It's going to repeat in your mind and it's going to be even more clear. So the more you focus on really like being that person, and then eventually you're going to do the things that that person does, what you're going to notice is the have part is where you start getting a bit more of, like, you start needing a fork in the road, okay? It's like you start that obsessive part, the robotic affirmations, you get the morning routine and you just get really into it, you get into a flow, but then potentially what you want doesn't necessarily come the way you want it to come, the speed it wants it to come. You name it, the manifestation is not coming the way you think or want it to come. And suddenly that obsession turns into overwhelm, turns into burnout, turns into you getting down on yourself and thinking that like you just can't have what you want. And you start to get controlling and obsessive of like how it's going to happen and what more can you do? And without even knowing it, you send your system, your entire vibration system, your nervous system into the sympathetic version of it. So there's the parasympathetic nervous system and there's the sympathetic nervous system. You want to be primarily in your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest nervous system, for you to manifest what you want. And also, just by the way, just to enjoy life, okay? Ain't no one here wanting to live in anxiety and like constant, like, you know. In fact, I'm gonna link a video for you below. It's such a good one where we talk all about how to heal your nervous system and manifest on autopilot, because that's a pretty big piece, and that's the second video you should watch after watching this video and watching the Lucky Girl Syndrome video. But essentially, like when you get into that, that's when you start getting into more of an overdrive. That's when you start feeling like that salesman that just asks too many questions and you can just feel that desperate energy. Or that's when you start driving your SP away. That's when clients just start to feel a little repelled, like, why is she like up my ass and I just don't feel this like good vibe, right? So you know what I'm talking about. You felt it before yourself. You've maybe even caught yourself. So what do? Let's get into the tangibles of what you do, and then we're going to touch on the energetics. The first thing you want to do is you got to get conscious of when this happens, right? I notice it happens when I start to get this feeling of it's not going to happen, or like the energy starts to drop. You feel it within you. So you got to really be conscious of that thermometer. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's like suddenly you lose that excitement and that momentum because you don't believe in the end result. So the first thing you want to do is get clear, or get clear is maybe not the right way of saying. Take a moment to brainstorm all the different ways that you could manifest what you want. So I guess a really good tangible example for this would be, let's say you're all the dating apps and you're like, okay, well, it's not working out, so I'm going to double down and go on way more dates. I'm going to date, tell everyone. But that's great. Keep doing that. But what if you just took a moment and really observed all the different ways that you could actually meet your person, right? You could run into them through a group of friends. You could walk into a coffee shop, spark a conversation that comes out of nowhere. Someone on your Facebook could contact you and you guys could hit it off because maybe you dated. Actually, I know someone this happened. They dated in the past, they lost contact, they both dated other people, and then they got together years later. I don't remember how. If she watches the video, she'll know who she is. She can comment. And now they have a child together, like they love each other. Like, it's just beautiful. Like, these things happen. In my situation, so after I did all of the obsessive work, I decided at one point, I'm going to tone down the work. The devotion is always going to be there, like the self-love devotion. Like, it actually lasted a couple of years. It's still there, actually. It's just always something at the front end of my mind. But I wrote a letter to the universe. I put it away. I changed my mind about the letter. A couple of 2 weeks later, I rewrote the letter because it felt more aligned. I put it away and I started dating. And the night that I actually met my husband, I was supposed to meet some other guy, and it wasn't like anything special, but it was just like, it was me doing the things, like being like, I need to put myself out there. That's it. Like, I didn't care about this person. Not that I didn't care, but you know what I mean, right? That night, so we were potentially going to meet. It wasn't a set date, But he flaked, and I didn't want to go home. I won't explain why, but anyways, I didn't want to go home. So I just messaged my friends. They were literally up the street from where I was, and they were all having dinner at this restaurant. So I just joined them. I joined them for a dessert and a cocktail. And then I was really getting ready to leave because the next day I had a work presentation. And a friend of a friend came, and he brought his friends, and one of his friends is now my husband, right? And we didn't even talk at the restaurant. I'm about to go home, and my friend's husband is like, hey, Atena, why don't you just come for one drink? Like, have fun. Come out, like, you know, work can always be like, don't get wasted. By the way, I don't even drink anymore, but back then I definitely did. Don't get wasted, just have one drink, come out. And on our walk to that second place, I started talking to my husband, and my now husband, my behavior towards him, I don't have words to explain. It was just completely different than any other man I've interacted with. And I attribute that to my RAS, my default mode network, actually taking over for me at that point, because I had gone so clear subconsciously about who I am and what I want to manifest, that it understood, this man's got it. Pay attention. Talk to him. I basically, it's like, again, it's so unlike who I used to be. I ignored everyone else that night when the night was ending, because I literally did have only one drink. I respected my rule. And I said, I'm gonna give you my number. We should hang out. I'd never given a man my number. So it just happened. I share this story because it's so important. Just as a note, there is no way I could have controlled that into reality. There's no way that I could say, hey, this one night I'm gonna maybe meet someone that I'm about to go on a date with, and then I'm going to change directions, go to a restaurant, and in that restaurant, just as I'm about to leave, the friend of a friend comes, and then someone else convinces me to go for one more drink, and on the way to that drink, I speak to him, and then my brain is activated and it picks up. Like, you can't. It's up to faith, it's up to trust, right? So this is where the detachment comes in. You gotta be clear that you cannot always, often, when you're manifesting from the field of possibilities and potentiality, there are so many unknowns, there's so much uncertainty. And so you do the obsessive work so that you are prepared when your luck meets preparation. So when the different energies, like luck is me being out the same night that he is, and it met my preparation of the back end of the work that I did, and there comes the manifestation, comes to life. This is why it's important to take breaks and open up your perspective of, like, you possibly cannot control how things come to you. And in fact, it's not even recommended, because there's so many different ways. And the way for you to be most open to that is to catch yourself when you get too into that energy of the obsession. Take a moment to really clarify, hey, there is no way I could actually know every single scenario. There's a lot of possibilities that come in. Another thing to do is to double down on gratitude for exactly where you are. This is imperative, because when you double down on gratitude, there's so much science about this, by the way. I talk about it in the 9 realistic habits to have the lucky girl syndrome. So again, watch that video after. But when you take even a moment to write the 3 things you're grateful for in a day, you activate your brain to be present-minded. When you are present-minded, you naturally step more into joy. You want to have the vision of the future, but your entire life happens in the now. And if you're constantly trying to control how the future manifests, this is when you get into a burnout mode at one point or another. So as you step into the attitude of gratitude, you're literally saying, my life is happening in the now. I am living in the now, and I'm grateful for the now. And you begin to be more present. Your energy starts naturally becoming more grounded. And this might seem a bit of a tangent, but I believe that it's very relevant. Make sure that you are living in the gain of your life, especially when you're manifesting things. Now, the gain of your life, if you haven't heard the concept between the gap and the gain, we actually talked about this in our book club inside our community, where we talked about this book called 10x is easier than 2x. And I think I've talked about it in a couple of other videos. But on chapter 4, Dan Sullivan, he talks about the difference between the gap and the gain. A lot of times when you go into overdrive or you begin to lack belief that your desires are going to come for you, it's because you're living in the gap. You're living in the I don't have this, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough. You're just living in that gap. Whereas you got to train your brain to constantly live in the gain. And the gain is, wow, I'm so happy of how far I've come. Here is a great place to be. Yes, I desire to grow. So I have 1 foot in deep gratitude and appreciation, 1 foot in desire. And if you want to know how you can get to yourself to live in the gain versus the gap, you can first of all read the book 10x is easier than 2x, join our little book club inside the community. We had a really powerful discussion, but a very tangible activity for you to do is literally take the time and write down over the last decade, and this might feel long, but trust when I say that doing this activity is literally life-changing. Write down every decision that you are so proud of, how different situations turned out really in your favor. I can think of one, for instance, when it comes to love, and I talked about it in the SB video that I'll link for you below as well, but when I was in my mid-20s, I had this really epic breakup. It broke me, like it shattered my heart into a million pieces. And at the time, it felt like my life was over. I felt like I would never fall in love again. I felt like I missed the boat. I missed my chance, which now seems crazy to me, but that's genuinely how I felt. And when I was writing all the things I'm proud of, I remembered that moment. And I also remembered how I chose to double down on therapy, how I chose to show up for myself, and how my life bettered after that horrific event. It served me. And when you create that evidence bank for your brain, because your brain is literally a record of the past, it starts to appreciate who you've been, and it starts to appreciate who you are right now. So it's so important for you to develop that flex. Now, the last thing that I will say when it comes to being able to detach and being more in trust and in surrender is that you got to just have fun. Okay, that's a given. I don't even think that needs to be a point, but you got to not be too lazy about it either. So a lot of times limiting beliefs will pop off. So when you are in the void, and I define the void as you've left the place you've been and you haven't quite arrived to the place you want to go. You're in the void, baby, right? You're in that uncertainty, in the, okay, I was so excited to go to this place, but now I don't know if I'm going to get to this place. Where am I? I'm in limbo. And in that limbo, okay, lots of limiting beliefs are going to show up, my love. Lots and lots and lots. And you don't want to be lazy about them. You want to tackle some of them, especially the ones that come up repeatedly. So for that, I'm actually going to write a prompt here for you that came up in one of the coaching communities I'm in. I love it. And as you write this prompt, you're going to have literally ChatGPT help you out with understanding what your limiting belief is. I did it for my YouTube channel, and I'm going to create a whole separate video. It was so enlightening. Anywho, that, I should have said this maybe in the beginning. Those of you who are here till the end, good job. What was this? Good job. You're going to get that info. I promise this is super transformational. And comment below, let me know if you do it and how it goes for you. And thank you so much for watching this video, beautiful soul. I love you so much. And until next time, bye. I mean,